there's almost like this superstition that, as you say, that you don't want to talk about exit because you're going to jinx it. But it's also like we have portfolio companies that told us, like, we went to pitch a VC and they told us up front, don't tell us about the exit because we're going to think that you want to exit the business and we want you to stay. And so that has made it a little more complicated to talk about exit strategy in the open in certain circumstances. On the other end of the spectrum, there's also a lot of founders who are very, very worried that exiting the business means that they're going to immediately lose all control over their baby, basically. And so there's a lot of thing, almost like emotional thought associated with should I or should I not exit um, business in the mind of founders. So Michelle, again, if you could continue on that vein, like could you shed a light on a myth or some bias that you have encountered during the process and how you managed it?
I mean, here's the great news, right? Someone wants to buy your company because you probably build something that is not like everything else that's out there. You can get acquired the same way. There is no playbook for an acquisition. Everyone says, well, this is what the stock purchase agreement should say, and this is how it's already always done, right? Same thing in fundraising. These are the rules for a Series A. Da, da, da. They want unique outcomes, so you should feel confident to ask for unique terms and create the deal that's comfortable for both sides. And, going back to what Noah said, you should be smart and make sure you're set up for QSBS and like understand what all of those things are, all the tax shields, like set your company up and make sure everything that you've done from a tax perspective makes sense so there aren't holes to poke through and you're really ready for offense and thoughtful conversations. If you're in a good position to have that conversation, meaning like you've cleaned up your house and it's ready to present, right? You can start to now negotiate things that maybe are a little bit different, but make sense for you as a founder, but also make sense for the brand, the business, and the acquirer. So my advice is like, think outside the box and be really human about it. I remember having a 99-page stock purchase agreement the weekend of 4th of July. I'm not a lawyer, but I read it and I made my lawyer explain it to me. And I was like, hold on. Now, what does this mean? Right? Like, what happens? And don't feel shameful about that. Feel really powerful about the fact that like you want to be in the know. Don't rely on, in my opinion, like be in the know as to what you're signing up for as a founder, what you're signing up for as a company being acquired, and what you're allowing the acquirer to, provide for you or, prevent you. And then you kind of go in and you're like, okay, eyes wide open.
Can you so thanks, Noah, can you share a misconception that you've come across when it comes to business exits? And it's almost like what's the mindset that entrepreneurs needs to have when they think about exits, and what are the different things that you've seen in your experience as you observe entrepreneur thinking about exit? That's three questions in one. Choose which one you want to answer.
Yeah, I do think, I think controlling like back to like, this is your baby that you're selling, and control, right? And thinking that you're still running the business. And a lot of times acquirers, right, they want you to come run the business because you've been able to build that business. They want you for at least some period of time, but understanding that control. And I think that's something that a lot of people also don't think about that becomes very challenging. Even in my case, right? Like you're still running, let's say you're still running that business, but changes are going to be made. And I realize like little things, right? Like we use Google and they use Teams. Like we need to move everyone to Teams. And I'm like, I hate Teams. Like this is like I was so upset about it. Like, what do you mean? Why do you have to do that? Or like, hey, your PTO policy is a little bit too lenient. Like we need to cut back on this a little bit. And it's like, well, that's what we sold all the people that work for us on, this policy. So like we can't change it. And you realize that although you may be kind of in control, right, in a way, you really aren't at the end of the day because you've sold your business, and you need to be able to kind of take a step back and just be okay with that, which is really very challenging, I think, for a lot of people that I know that have gone through that same process. Very, very challenging, and leads to a lot of founders leaving earlier, right, than their earnout periods that they have at those companies, because it's like, even the amount of money I can make, it's just not worth the stress that I have. And I have many friends that have sold companies for large amounts of money, and it's just like they're more stressed running that business inside the acquirer than they were running that business on their own, which is kind of crazy because you're like, oh, your life's great. Look at how, like, you've made so much money here. You were so successful, but it's an emotion that's a little bit hard to understand.